Good evening, everybody. This is Captain Tinsley, Salty Bannon, with another Salty podcast. This is actually episode number 19, so we're moving right along. So it's always a good day to talk about sailing in the Salty podcast. And tonight we have three very special guests that I have experience with. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and bring them out one at a time. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
So these are the three owners, just the three owners of Yacht Rigger. And
That's correct.
And so we have Stephen, Andre, and Brian. Thank you guys for coming out.
Pleasure.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
Let's start with you, Stephen. So you are the founder, isn't that right?
That's right. Yep. So back in 2014, I moved to St. Pete and started the Yacht Rigger here kind of early 2015. That's the very short, I guess, origin version. And then met Brian in
16.
Early 16, I feel like it was.
Correct.
Early to mid. Yeah, the spring. And then Brian came on board and joined forces. And we went from one minivan to two minivans, driving around the county, servicing boats, doing rigging work and fabrication, and kind of limited to that. And then eventually in 2018, we became land-based and actually set up a shop, which is actually shipping containers, built out shipping containers in a boatyard. And then ended up meeting Andre in 2019, right, Andre? Is that right? Yeah. And we actually worked on Andre's boat that he's sitting on right now and re-rigged that boat. And fast forward 5 years now, it's crazy. We ended up joining forces. Well, we helped Andre to a certain degree with Gulf Nautical. Exactly. That's how you met him, Tinsley.
That's right.
But helped Andre or partner with Andre really to create Gulf Nautical. And then eventually merged 2 years ago on April Fool's Day. So
your dad was the first one that I met, because just to give a little bit of history, the way I got your number was on Women Who Sail. So you guys had done some presentations to some of the women's sailing groups.
Yep.
And so I posted a picture of a broken chain plate. I didn't know that it was a big deal. I was kind of naive.
Yep.
And I posted it in the Women Who Sail Facebook group. And they said, okay, not cheap and not a quick fix, but here's who you can call. And it was the Yacht Rigger. And there was a few people already told me what was wrong and sang your praises. And I met your dad first. He's the one that came out to the boat. I was staying at John's Pass, and what he told me, and I already knew that you guys were great because of what they were saying. And he pretty much, concurred on what they were saying. So it wasn't going to be a quick fix. And you guys, I brought my boat to your house.
Yes, it's funny. I remember where I was sitting. I have this thing with my memory where I know where I was when I heard things. But I remember where I was sitting when my dad told me about your boat, and he'd had a conversation with you. And I was sitting on the dock behind my house, and he told me about this situation with an island packet.
The island packet,
27, right?
Yeah, it was an island packet 27.
And he said, I spoke to this lady, and she's on her way down from the Gulf, and she's got a broken chain plate. And and we ended up having you come for the chain plate fix and tie up.
Well, first we went to Marine Max. First we went there.
Yep.
Well, I don't know what came first. I guess that Marine Max came first because we had to haul it out, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep. But I guess
then he took it to your house. Your dad took it to your house to do some other things because we were doing some other things.
Yes, and I think did we replace the rigging too? I can't remember if we did new rigging and chain plates. I mean, this is a couple boats ago, right? And is this 2017?
It was 2017. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so this is early Yacht Rigger era. Back in the day, and I shouldn't skip over the fact that my dad was very and still is very deeply involved in the business. He's gave up his ownership shares, but he still works in the business full time.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that. I just love him.
He gave up his ownership shares to go cruising for almost 2 years and disappeared, went off, enjoyed the Bahamas, And then he just missed us so much that he had to come back, and now he runs the distribution side of the business that we're kind of growing into.
Yeah, he
with my
told
mom.
me
But
that
my dad
y'all
was
were
integral to starting.
He said y'all were so busy that he had to come back and help out.
Yep. Yeah, pretty
But
much that, and he missed his grandkids. I mean, let's be honest.
of course.
There's a combination of things there.
Well, did you work in the Caribbean at first, or was it always in Florida? Did you do some?
No, yeah, I worked in the Caribbean for 5 years. So I sailed from Cape Town, South Africa, where I was born and raised, across to the Caribbean. And then we were in the Southern Caribbean for a while. I was very fortunate. My parents gave me that experience when I was a teenager. And then we ended up in St. Martin, and that's where I did my apprenticeship. And so from roughly 2001 to 2005, I worked on boats, big boats for a while. But during that time, I really full-time from 2002 to 2005, I was in St. Martin.
And then you showed your dad how to do the rigging, or that's what he said.
I mean, he's got a background in retail and retail management, and he was a buyer for a long time. And so he knew how to sail, but he didn't know what rigging was, which is the case actually for a lot of sailors. They don't know what rigging is until they have to replace their rigging.
Till the chain plate
becomes real.
Breaks, yeah.
Exactly. And so he got here in 2015, and I was like, hey, I'm going to start this business. It'll be fun. Come on for the ride. And so he did. And we, just, got things rolling up until he went cruising back in what year that was now, 2021, right after COVID, I think.
Well, it's quite impressive how big you have gotten. And so why don't we go to Brian next, since he was the next one to come on board. And now, Brian, I think you did some fabrication for my boat, didn't you?
I did. So I don't remember everything I build, but I definitely remember you, and I definitely remember the boat, and I remember you being pleasant to deal with, and I believe we did a wind gen and some solar.
Yeah, we created a whole thing for the solar and for the radar and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And for Andre to do his thing. But and so I was looking at on Facebook and on the, if you could tell us just a little bit about what you do. You do a lot of arches, a lot of steel frames.
I do. So I started out life as a custom metal fabricator before I joined into the marine market. And so I was already building stuff and making things, and then got into the marine market. I was always making things for my own boats on the inside, and never really joined the two until about 20 years ago. And then I was a spar builder. So I built the spars and rigging parts at a place called JSI that was around for a very long time. And then when they kind of dissolved and kind of went their own ways and kind of moved out, they shut down, and a lot of the talent and people went everywhere. Around that time, I started doing private work, like contractor work on boats, and that's when I met Steven. So then we joined together. And
you should tell the specific story. Remember the very first time you did an on-site job where I was like, hey, I need to cut this mast 4 feet shorter, and I need to and you were like, oh yeah, I can do that. Like, no problem.
Because he definitely came in. I was working as a contractor at a different place, welding and fabricating. He came in there and he started asking some questions, and they came and got me, and they said, this guy's asking some really high level questions. Can you come out and talk to him? And I said, sure. And he was asking for some pretty high level stuff to happen about cutting down mast, re-welding the masthead on, major surgery on a boat. And
wow.
I said, sure, no problem. And just like off the cuff said it was no issue. And I had done many of that and started talking about the details of it. Without getting too far into the weeds, he recognized that I knew what we were discussing in abstract when we were there. So then I came out and helped him do some stuff on some boats and install some things. And, not everybody works together quickly, easily, efficiently. And when you're at the top of your field and you do things fast and efficient, I'm trying to say this nicest way possible. It's not always common to have somebody keep up. And Stephen and I were having a nice casual conversation about what we were going to do on the weekend while doing very complicated things. And so at the end of the day, he pulled me aside and said, have you ever really had anybody work with you like this? Because it's not common for me. And I said, actually, it's not.
Stephen said that?
Yeah,
Steven
Steven said that to me. It's not common that somebody works with me like this. And what do you think about that? And I said, yeah, it's not common for me either. And he said, I think we should partner up. And that was a very special thing to hear from him. And I agreed wholeheartedly. And we went down to the lawyer's office and partnered up. So,
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty cool. So some of the things
something Brian glossed over for a second was that not only was he in metal fabrication, but he was a mast builder for a pretty significant number of years before I met him. And I didn't fully grasp that when I first was talking to him, because I thought he was just the metal guy that kind of did stuff and, helped out in the shop. And then after, obviously, like Brian said, working with him, I'm like, oh, this guy actually understands masts and rigging and metal. Yeah.
Yeah, like how I got the job in the first place at the spar builder going back 20 years ago. It was, I walked in to get a sail fixed, and while I was there, I looked around at some of the other departments and recognized they had a metal shop. And I came in and I looked at a mast they were building, and I asked him, I was like, wow, that's a really big catamaran mast you're building. And he was like, how do you know it's a catamaran? And I'm like, sweatback spreaders, tapered top, rocker on the bottom. It's got to be a multi-hull. It's not a catamaran. And he was like, oh, really? So then it was, oh, what do you do about, how do you build this metal? How do you do that? And he started recognizing that I knew how to weld and fabricate and machine. And so they offered me a job. And it was fortuitous because it was a downgrade and paid from what I was used to making to go to the marine market, but it was much more fun, and I enjoyed all of the things I built. And then eventually I was able to make my living a little better as being a contractor. But yeah, having the working knowledge of how the boat goes together, and I studied hull design and naval architecture, and I kind of get the boat as a whole. And so when I'm building something or fabricating something for a boat, I try to take the entire boat into account, and I'm not just attaching something to it, but I'm attaching something to a organic thing that moves through a fluid motion. And I have to make sure that the weights are right, the balance of the boat is right. Like I'm not just making a bracket for a light.
And it's got to look good.
Oh, it has to be aesthetically pleasing, or I can't do it.
Well, of course. Well, Steven, you're really good at picking talent, aren't you?
Laugh, Tinsley. I can't say, yeah. And I was going to interject for a second, but say, as anyone watching this, if you're dealing with a professional or contractor on your boat, it's something we've managed to bring together here is, and it's why it's such a pleasure, like for the three of us to work together, is it's very rare to find someone who is a specialist in a given industry. Especially, I think it's more common to find riggers who are sailors. Like that's not that unusual. But to find someone who's a really good metal fabricator and is also a sailor, and someone that's a really good marine electrician that is also a sailor, that's the anomaly there. Like I'm not the anomaly. Like these two guys are like rare breeds. Like there's not very many guys that understand cruising and boating and also understand their trades, like Brian and Andre. I mean, it's really. I've been fortunate to meet them and have them cross my path and be willing to kind of jump into this crazy thing that we have going on. But it is very rare to find someone who knows metal and fabrication, but also knows sailing. And
I knew Andre and you were sailors, but I wasn't sure about Brian. But that's good to hear.
Oh, I think if we were all getting a race, Brian would probably win. So
I don't necessarily live on a boat because I like my little house up in Dunedin in the woods. But
it looks very nice.
I might actually live on a boat one day, but I've always had the thinking that when I make that move to hop on a boat, I'm probably gonna leave and sail for a little while. So what I concentrate when I'm day sailing or weekend sailing is high performance boats. So I like to push things to the edge, or at least I used to, and getting a little older now, if you will. But I sail things with rotating masts and multiple hulls.
Well, I didn't know that you could shorten a mast. I just had to go back to that. It's just like, is that
make
recommended?
them taller or longer?
Yeah, we
shorten a lot more.
Whatever. Yeah. So it all starts from aluminum in the first place, and that's.
It doesn't make it, not perform as well.
Oh, it absolutely is like sailing around with a reef in it. But if you live on the other side of a short bridge, you're okay with that.
Well, yeah. There's a couple bridges up here that I can no longer go under. I could for my 27, but They're 50. Mine's 48, but it's just a little too close for comfort. But
And,
See,
yeah,
but that's something that you wouldn't notice too much is, if you shorten the mast by a very small percentage point, there's a strong chance you would never really notice the difference, except in very light air. But I mean, a lot of the boats, the majority of the boats that we shorten the masts on are cruising catamarans. And for like mine, for example, and Andre's, like, I don't notice a huge difference between saying with one reef in versus zero, except for in very light air. But when I'm in very light air, I can throw a reef in my main and still fly my code 0 and really have almost zero performance drop. So yeah, there's, unless you're a very high performance boat, a very high performance sailor on a cruising boat, you're not going to notice
or a
little
heavy
bit of cut down.
island packet.
Right, exactly. You would maybe shorten your mast and upgrade your cruising head sail and not really notice the performance loss.
make up the difference somewhere else.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk to Andre.
Well, like Steven said, we met in 2019 because I hired Steven and the Yacht Rigger to re-rig this boat. I had just purchased it, and the first thing I wanted to do is replace the rigging because it was 12 years old, and I had some bad experiences in a previous boat with rigging that was old, so I hired them to redo the rig. And then I guess after that, we became friends. My kids are the same age as Steven's kids. We hung out, and then we actually formed Gulf Nautical before it was actually even an electrical company. We were importing OC tenders from New Zealand, and that kind of became a bit of a hobby for me because by trade, I'm not an electrician. I actually have what I call a night job. I fly a Boeing 787 for Air Canada. And at the time that I was working on your boat, Tinsley, I was actually on a leave of absence. I was off for 4 years during the COVID time. And so met Steven, started Gulf Nautical with, I think we started with tenders, and then I dabbled a little bit in air conditioning. So I've always been working on my own boat, learned from others since 2007. And 2020, I did my ABYC certification for marine electrical. And then I made it official. I figured I'd make my hobby or my knowledge official, and did the certification in 2020. And then we worked alongside each other. As a matter of fact, it was a very big decision for me to take a leave of absence from flying because that's a very secure job. But with COVID, I did not want to go commuting to Canada because I'm based in Canada, if you haven't noticed, but with the accent by now. And Steven's like, nope, you can do it. He says, I'm going to bury you in work. I was like, yeah, but it's a big risk. And sure enough, like within weeks of
man.
Yep. Yeah. And
I remember Brian and I were so excited. I was like, hey, man,
Yes, we
I'm
were.
pretty sure Andre wants to just do this electrical thing like full time while we wait for COVID to settle. And we were like,
yes. I remember when Andre
we'll
said,
have a
hey,
reliable contractor.
if I got my ABYC, do you think you guys would, like send me some work? And we both laughed so hard. We were like, we will bury you to the point that you will never see light again.
Yeah, make it stop. I'm good.
You will beg for mercy.
Because at this point, you guys had seen what I had done on my boat and
Correct.
the other boat. And you
Correct.
knew what I was capable
We had enough conversations to realize that, it's rare to find someone who understands electrical as well as you do, and also someone who understands boats as well as you. That combination is super rare. And so to not only know hey, how the electrons move is cool, but then how can we apply them to cruising and sailing is an entirely unique skill set.
So
And
Andre,
fully understand
when
the
you were
corrosion
putting
too.
in when you made all those installations on my boat, it's hard to believe that was your side gig or your side hustle, because all the recommendations that you made, you really upsold me, and I'm happy that you did. But the video that I did after you installed everything, it's on YouTube, and the amount of technical jargon and the understanding that you have is just amazing. And so I have to go back and listen to it I had to listen to it a few times to even kind of understand what you were talking about, but I'll go back and listen to it every so often. I'm really glad I recorded it.
Good. That's good. Yeah, I don't watch too many movies, or the things that really get me going is the technical stuff and learning new things. I learned how to fix my parents' car before I had my driver's license. I'm a tinker. I learn how to do things. I'm very curious. I want to understand how things work, and if they don't work, I want to be able to fix them. So that's how I've been my whole life, and here we are, I guess.
Okay. Well, I wanted to ask you a couple questions about the electronics that you have on the website. Do you remember the type of batteries you installed? Because I can't.
Lithionics.
Lithionics. Do you still deal with those?
Absolutely. It's the same batteries that I have on my boat. We do deal with them. They are the Rolls Royce of the battery manufacturers out there. They're right here in Clearwater.
Right.
They are, the price point today is very hard to sell because there's so many brands that have come on the market. Lithium prices have gone down, but Lithionics has maintained their prices.
I think it's about just to interject there. I mean, what is it, Andre? It's come down almost in 2 years, close to 50%.
Whoa.
Yeah,
I remember what I paid. Oh,
yeah, you're an early
goodness.
adopter, Tinsley.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you did adopt a very, very high-end, high-quality, premium battery. That is,
Right.
Yeah, Andre can kind of.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah, you made a good decision. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's only actually until maybe a year to a year and a half ago that like Victron came out with a product.
Yeah, I noticed that was on the website.
Yeah, so their energy density didn't used to be as high as it is today. And back when we did your boat, that was the smallest form factor for the amount of amp hours that I could fit. Because I was looking at the space, and I was like, hey, Tinsley, like I can do this. I can't remember what other battery selection I had for you, but
I think it was between kilovolt and Lithionics at the time.
Potentially, yeah. And we could literally double the amount of capacity with these batteries.
Right.
Unfortunately, that came at a price, but I think in this case it was definitely worth it to have the 630 amp hours that we have on your boat.
Well, my thought was, that was a couple of really good years in real estate. I was like, while I'm making the money, let's outfit this thing so when I retire, it's all set.
I think you'd be hard pressed to find another similar model boat with that many amp hours and lithium in
Sweet.
it. Tinsley, I don't know that I highly doubt that it exists, to be honest.
Well, I've been trying to take care of it because Andre said if you don't let it run down too much, they last longer.
Mm-hmm.
Now there have been a few times where it ran down, but I do my best to try to prevent that.
They're pretty accepting of abuse in all reality. Yeah.
Okay. I noticed that you had the rainmakers on your website.
Rain Man.
Rain Man.
Oh, Rain Man. Okay.
Everyone says Rainmaker. Don't feel bad.
Okay. So can you tell a little bit about that, the Rain Mans?
So we've been a Rain Man dealer since I think it's 2015. So a long time. I'm pushing a decade at this point. And so not only do we have a long track record with these guys, we've been using their equipment for a long time, and they came out with some pretty cool updates in 2018 where they modernized their equipment. But it's just a really good value product, and a large part of what we do at the Yacht Rigger is we, as people who live on boats and cruise and spend a ton of time with cruisers, we try and find something that not only represents a high quality product but also represents value. So there's plenty of good water makers out there. We love the combination that Rayman has in that it's very high quality, it has high production rates, it's affordable. There's a lot of redundancy built in. They have a lot of cross systems, so no matter which Rayman system you own, the parts cross correlate most of the time. And it's just generally a very high quality product. So it's been something that we've sold for a very long time, and we offer a lot of support for. We have a team dedicated, in fact, to just handling Rainman sales and Rainman spare parts if anyone needs them, maintenance kits, stuff like that. And
so do you sell the portable kinds and the kind that you install?
We do. And so we sell the portable, and now the installation type is called a modular system that can be installed kind of wherever on the boat. And then there's a new system actually as of a few months ago called the cased system. And so in the past, the modular system actually used to be called the naked system, which is no longer called that. But the modular system had an auto flush and control panel module that you could add to it. But now the case system comes with an aluminum aluminum housing that the entire system is mounted to with an auto flush module and control panel pre-plumbed into. So it's a very well, modular, I guess is the word, but very simple installation type system where if you have the space, you can just drop this rectangle of components into the boat and hook up electrical and plumbing to it, and you're done. So we sell all three versions. The portable system remains the most popular, but all three systems work using the exact same components. And so, like when we have a vessel that comes to us that wants an installation type system done, we recommend and install the modular type system. And we actually have a really good YouTube video out as of 10 days ago that Danny, our lead tech on the Rayman systems, explains the nuts and bolts of what the install looks like. Is
that on the website system. Or it's the YouTube channel, or you probably got it on the Facebook page?
It's on the Facebook and on the YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is actually called the On Deck channel because we partnered with a producer, Ryan, who makes a lot of videos. I saw that. Yeah. And so it's going to be on our Rayman page on the website though soon. But for us, it's just been the track record. You know, Rayman's a company that stands behind their product. It's been consistent for a very, very long time, and it's just reliable and it works. And
can you tell what do they start at, the portable ones?
Sure. So and it's funny because I've done enough boat shows, so I kind of have these prices stuck in my head. So the most popular unit is the high output portable unit that produces 36 to 37 gallons an hour, and it's the kind of system you can have running if you have a generator or a large inverter on your boat. You can literally have it running in less than 10 minutes from the time you unbox it. And that system retails, including taxes, for about $5,500. Okay. And then the smaller system that has a single membrane that produces 18 gallons an hour, still nothing to sneeze at. That system is
good for a single person.
Yeah, exactly. Approximately $600 cheaper, so about $4,900.
Okay.
It's not half the price, half the production. So we still that's why the high output system is the most popular, because it means your runtime is lower. So as a single person, you run your water maker every, 2 or 3 days for 45 minutes, and you've made 30 gallons of water. Or if you want to take long showers, you run it every day for an hour.
So Brian, what did you just say?
Oh, I said, or a very, I was making a joke about it being a very efficient couple. So you said for a single person.
Oh, a very efficient couple.
Or an efficient couple. Yeah. One great example we have is there's a couple who went out cruising to the Bahamas. We did a big refit on their boat, and they were on the Jeanneau 37. Steve and golly, his wife, I can't remember her name right now. But they went out to the Bahamas for I think 3.5 years, and we calculated that with their Rayman portable system and a Honda generator, they made 34 to 37,000 gallons of water in the years they were out there cruising.
Wow!
And their besides pre-filters, which are about $6-7 a piece that you replace depending on But besides pre-filters, they replaced one $75 high output, one $75 high pressure hose in 3.5 years on the Rayman system. It's just a perfect example of how well that system works.
So, okay, so I have experience with this with you guys, which is all very good. So when someone comes in, where do you start with them? They say, okay, we have this boat. We don't really know what we want to do to it, but where do you go from there?
I think the first question is usually, what do you want to do with the boat? And then we try and reverse engineer that to fit their needs. So my job is yeah.
I do have a quick comment on that.
Go ahead.
We firmly believe that we started as the Yacht Rigger, and the first thing we do is make sure the mast stays up and vertical. So we get on the boat for a rigging inspection, and then we stay on for everything else you want to do.
Right.
And it starts with keeping the boat together. So anyway,
exactly. So yeah, I mean, usually the conversation starts with, as Brian said, like, hey, is your boat safe to sail? And that means, is your rigging in good shape? And because you bought a sailboat, right? You didn't buy a motorboat. So is your rigging in good shape? Can you do your furlers work? And is your running rigging in good shape? Is your mast going to fall down? Is something going to break and scare you? That kind of thing. And then we move on to the creature comforts and upgrades. Once it's safe to sail, do you need some solar panels? If you need solar panels, where are you going to put them? And how are you going to mount them? And if that conversation starts up, Andre and I both kind of say, hey, that's Brian's world. Brian's good. Brian's not good. He's amazing at like making things fit onto a boat in a way that is aesthetically pleasing, but also functional. And then when people start asking me how much power do I need, I can get myself in trouble because I'm a much better rigger than an electrician. So I tend to defer to Andre or our electrical team and just say, hey, you guys take it from here. What is this person actually? How much battery capacity do you need, and how much solar, and what systems are you running? But it's really a reverse engineering process in terms of finding out if you're going to just be using a boat for a weekend of sailing and coming back to the dock every 48 hours. It's a very different use case than a person that says, hey, no, I want to be able to go to Dry Tortugas and then the Bahamas and come back 3 months from now. It's a completely different animal.
Yeah. And Andre, I wasn't thinking lithium, and I was thinking, then we started talking, I was thinking 1 panel and 1 lithium, and then we went to 2 panels and 2 lithiums. So now what made you suggest that?
So the effort to put 1 solar panel up is almost the same as 2 solar panels up, and then you're just basically adding the cost of the panel. There is a little bit more cost associated with it. And same thing with the battery. If you add 1 battery versus 2 battery. Now, there are extremes for every situation, but typically we try to maximize solar and maximize battery up to a certain extent, because there's a balance between the battery size or the battery bank and the amount of energy that you could put back in. So the batteries are like a tank. So if you can't fill the tanks in a rapid amount of time, then there's no point in having such a large tank on a boat. So typically it's a balance of how much you can charge the battery bank and the size of the battery bank. But in your case, I felt that you would probably take advantage of the extra solar, definitely the extra solar, and of course the extra battery. So if you have like a cloudy day, you've got that little extra storage to kind of keep you going through.
Now, how much does the wind generator really help?
If you're in the trade winds, it helps a lot. If you're in St. Pete and a fickle wind that we have here, it's more of a noise maker. Well, actually, yours is actually not that bad, but most of them are actually noise makers. Yeah,
noise makers.
Yeah.
What's been your experience, Tinsley? How do you feel about your wind generator? Do you like it?
Well,
or do you hate it?
I do like it. I just don't know enough about it to know how much it helps, and but I'm glad it's there. Yeah. What were you going to say, Andre?
It's interesting because when I had my monohull, I had a wind generator, and at that time it was a great piece of equipment because my needs, my consumption was fairly low. I ran a fridge; it drew six amps.
That's a lot.
Well, yeah, right, but it's actually it's decent. So if there was a 15-knot wind overnight, it would keep my fridge running. But now on this boat, I have 3 fridges. I have Starlink. I have a TV. I have 3 kids doing whatever they want to do, and that energy budget is completely out the window. So at that time, when I have a monohull, the wind generator was okay, but now it's just such a minute amount of in the whole energy bucket that it's not even worth it for me. The solar panels do more, especially.
I figure it's a good thing because I also have Starlink now.
Right.
And that's pulling, right? I don't know how much that pulls, but it pulls something, right?
It actually
does it pull?
It's 150 watts. The 150 watts. Yeah.
So, does the generator keep up with that?
I mean, it might. And again, it just really depends on where you are in the Caribbean. Definitely, it's going to help because there's always the trade winds. So you'll get consistent, probably, I would say, 4 to 7 amps at 12 volts in the Caribbean, which basically will run your fridge 24/7. So
okay.
But again, it just depends on the size and the energy budget. Like you have a pretty lean system on board, like it's lean and mean. One refrigerator, you've got a smaller inverter that you use once in a while, and we don't have we don't power air conditioning with yours.
Right. No, I do bring a small generator just in case I want to do that, but usually I'm okay with just sweating it out. Try to be tough, try to be a sailor,
Right.
But so do you have everything powered up on your boat to run 3 fridges?
Yeah, 3 fridges. I even run the air conditioner overnight because there's been some new developments and modern DC powered AC systems or variable speed that are a little bit more efficient. not night and day, but in good conditions, I can cool my cabins at night only on solar, and I can do that for about 3 nights in a row, and then I have to start the engine. So we have high output alternators
Oh my gosh.
with regulators. So yeah, there's all kinds of power solutions on this boat. We just started. We're going to have our own line of DC generators. So instead of an AC powered generator, so things have changed. The way that we engineer the electrical systems now is you charge your batteries, and then the batteries are powerful enough, the inverters are powerful enough to run all of your electrical needs on board for as long as you have battery power. And the only purpose of running a generator is to charge the batteries. Whereas in the past, you couldn't do that with AGM batteries. You had to run the genset to be able to run your air conditioner, to run your induction cooktop. So the genset ran pretty much all the time because most people wanted to have those appliances on bigger boats. But now you can use the generator as solely a charging source, and it makes a little bit more sense to do that with DC power. So I've got the prototype on my boat. We just sold the first one to one of our customers. So and it's a very basic system. It's basically a diesel engine, an alternator, and a Zeus regulator, things that can be repaired as opposed to a very complex electrical system or electrical components like Fisher Panda makes one, as well as Polar generators, but they have some fairly complex electronics that can be head scratching and a little frustrating at times. So we created this just for it to be simple and easy to repair out in the field. For example, if the Zeus fails, we send you another Zeus. Alternator can be repaired by most alternator shops around the world, and the diesel generator is just a diesel engine. So
you guys can make just about anything happen as far as power goes, or Brian, he can.
As far as boats go.
As finally, yeah, as far and you guys can cover it all. I know you
just
don't do
touching on what Andre said.
No sewer though.
We try and avoid the sewer side. Yeah. Do you understand, or are you familiar with like what typical diesel generator does, in that it creates AC current that's available on the boat for you to use? So and sometimes I just have to dumb things down because Andre talks up here and he's at this crazy high level, and I'm somewhere down here, but I've learned from him, and so I'm climbing up. But the typical generator on a boat creates an AC current. The only way it charges,
I can plug my shore power into my little portable generator, and that's AC power.
Correct. And so all that's doing though is taking that AC power and using your battery charger on board to charge your batteries. So the generator doesn't charge your batteries. The generator powers the battery charger that charges your batteries.
Right.
And so the benefit to having the DC generator is we're effectively cutting out that middleman of the battery charger, because your battery charger has a limited capacity. You can only charge so fast. So you may have a 10 kilowatt or 8 kilowatt or 13 kilowatt generator on board, or a Honda generator that's 2.2 kilowatts, but it can only provide current to a battery charger that then charges the bank. Whereas the DC generator that Andre's talking about is a straight DC massive battery charger that is, what, Andre, 2 to 4 times the capacity of your average charging system on board?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the one that I have on mine is 5,500 watts, and it's actually equivalent to an AC generator. Basically, we match the power head, the energy generating end, to what the equivalent would be for an AC generator. So, 10 kilowatts, 12 kilowatts.
But when you were running your generator before, your battery charger was capable of charging at, say, 120 amps, right?
That's right. So that's right.
So, and so now you're charging at about 400 amps.
Yes.
Is that right?
Or more, close to 500.
Or more.
Yeah.
Okay. So does that make sense, Tinsley? So before, Andre's was, even though he was running a big generator, his battery charger could only charge at 120 amps, which means 120 amp hours per hour could go into his battery bank. Now, with a DC generator, he can charge at close to 500 amps per hour.
So
500.
So the DC generator, I got to ask a stupid question, is run by what?
Diesel.
Diesel.
Okay.
It's the same diesel engine that runs your diesel generator, or any diesel generator.
Okay.
But Andre's figured out how to modify the power head, which is the power generation part of a diesel generator.
So if you don't have one already on board, if you don't have one built in, can you get a mobile one or a hand?
Kit. Well, not
the
mobile,
entire
but it
kit
would have
would
to be
in a box,
installed.
and you could buy that. Yeah, we would install that.
Okay.
No, but it's
So I'm
not
wondering
like
where.
it's not like the
It's not like a Honda.
2000. It's,
Okay.
it's a built-in, and honestly, this is only if you have really high needs. So, like
You got
now
a family of 5 living on board.
right, exactly.
And that's you, right? Is it 5?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So, and you know, this was not possible 5, 6. Well, it was possible 5 years ago, but here's the family. Things have changed in the electrical design of boats, and now we have
Fast.
the ability very fast. Exactly, the
Yeah.
energy that the lithium batteries are able to deliver is nothing compared to what AGMs could do, and now we can powerful inverters and cook on an induction cooktop.
Wait. Say that again. The energy that lithium battery. Say that one more time.
So for the equivalent size battery bank of an AGM versus lithium, the lithium battery, the internal resistance of the lithium battery bank is capable of delivering energy a lot faster and a lot more efficiently than AGMs.
Okay,
So,
I thought you said the reverse. Okay, so
yeah, no.
All right, that makes sense.
No, and it charges a lot faster too. Like an AGM battery bank, you would be charging from 50%, and you can only discharge an AGM bank 50%, whereas you can discharge lithium up to 20%, even
25
a little bit more. But
25. Was it 25?
20%. Yeah.
But but you recommended not to do that on a regular basis, right?
You can. Like the differences might be like 1,000 to 2,000 cycles, but you're already like 20 times the amount of cycles that you would have on an AGM bank. So you can utilize the entire, down to 20%, 80% of the battery bank, and go all the way up top. But if you look at the specifications of lithium, they have kind of a chart where the lower you go, the longer it will last in terms of cycles. But it's not that great.
I've never forgot that you told me that, so I try not to get it down.
Full
too
disclosure,
much.
Tinsley, in all our hardcore testing on boats, I've definitely taken my batteries down to 2% a couple times, and
whoa!
It's just fine. So, yep. It has been done. I know Andre's done the same.
I worry about 60%. I'm like, oh no!
No, don't stress.
Oh no.
Don't even stress. Anywhere down to 20%, you're fine. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, lithium batteries, like their favorite place in the state of charge is 50%. They love to be at 50%. If you could leave a battery at 50%, that's where it would be the happiest. It doesn't like to be up top.
My alarm goes off at 50%. I guess you said it that way, or did you set it that way? In the middle of the night, I'll be like, what?
You can actually set it quite a bit lower. You can lower it quite a bit because you're only utilizing 50%. Well, like 40% of the capacity. Okay. So you have a lot more.
It doesn't do that very often.
Yeah. Well,
it was a panic. All right. So let's see. So is there anything that we haven't talked about that you guys do?
There's probably a lot that we haven't talked about.
That's a good question. So we like to alter boats to have more energy capacity, have more energy ability to put in the capacity, and we also like to make them go faster or be more comfortable. So I would say that pretty much sums it up, because that's hot water, water generation, all of your electronic creature comforts, how to change or alter the boat or how it sails. So like it's pretty widespread.
I think one new maybe addition that's like relatively new and we're pretty excited about, and we've been doing it for a while now, but it is the high output alternators. Mm-hmm. So high output, high capacity alternators. This is really Andre's department, but it's
is it
really
Victron?
Changed things. Nope, it's not.
Oh.
It's
okay.
The
Andre, alternators.
Yeah, so the preferred. I'll let Andre take the wheel on this one, really. But where we come from, Zeus regulation with high output alternators. Yeah.
Right. So I was involved in with Arco Marine on a the advisory board, basically a committee with industry professionals to develop this new regulator, which is the Arco Zeus. And it won the IBEX Award for Innovation last year, which was pretty exciting.
What does it do?
Was that?
What does the Zeus do?
Oh, it's yeah, good point. It's it's a alternator regulator. So you have a high output alternator. So a standard alternator, like what you actually, I think you've changed your alternator now, but let's just say that you had your
The
original.
Balmar.
That's the Balmar, yeah. So the stock alternators are probably like 35 to 55 to some of them are 120 amps, and their efficiency rating is usually roughly around 50%. And if you throw a high output alternator, what we consider a high output alternator is usually at 12 volt. We've done 170s, we've done 250s. There's even some 360s, but typically we do 250 amp alternators, and that means that you can charge your battery bank very, very fast. It bogs down the engine because that size of alternator is a little bit too big for the size of the engine normally found on small sailboats. But the Arco Zeus is the regulator. It is what it controls the output of the alternator.
Well, there is a small regulator in there, but I just installed, and you helped me.
Yes.
When I was in QS, and you walked the electrician through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I got a new part, and you have to help me out here. It was a charger that goes from the alternator to the batteries, because there was a problem, like they weren't charging as much when I was running the engine.
Yeah, your factory alternator was really small and it was really tired. It was a 35 amp alternator, and I put a 18 amp B2B, which is a battery to battery charger, which delivers the energy from the starter battery, which your alternator.
Well, I had upgraded the Balmar to the 100 or whatever.
That's right.
A couple years ago.
That's right.
But it still was not.
It's because we still had that battery to battery charger, and what was happening where we're using the Balmar to charge the starter battery. The starter battery was really happy, but now that smaller battery to battery charger that we installed for the other alternator was still there, and it was still trickling power to the batteries. Now the reason we went with that alternator on yours is you didn't have a serpentine belt, which is a wide belt to handle the additional load of the higher output. So 100 amps and above, you need a serpentine belt, and below 100 amps, you can get away with a V belt.
So what did I install? What did I install last?
So you install a Balmar 100 amp alternator with a MC618 voltage regulator. So the piece that was new was what you just, the last part you just said, I think. Because I already had the Balmar, but they was still quite not doing the job. That's right.
And you walked the electrician through because they had all the all the Victrons and the lithium batteries, and you had to tell him what he wasn't quite sure what to do, and so luckily
we hooked it
Andre
up
came to the rescue.
We hooked it up and programmed it to the lithium, and then what we did is we reversed that battery to battery charger to the starter battery. So now your starter has its own personal charger and stays topped off all the time with that battery charger.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. I barely understood what he just said, but he knows what he's talking about.
Sounds good. So,
but it's much better now. I'm when I'm at anchor, it's the batteries are staying charged up more. So, all right. What else?
Nice.
What else?
So something else, people may not realize that we do, and it's because we really don't. This isn't something that we necessarily communicate too much outward to the public, but we are now.
We're going to do that now.
Yeah, right. We are the U.S. and Caribbean distributor for a line of rigging products called Blue Wave. It's a Danish family business, and so they make rigging components. All the rigging that you see on your boat, the fittings are assuaged to the end of the wire, and a fair bit more, your lifeline components, all that stuff. It's a 92-year-old Danish family company that has. We've been very fortunate that they have given us exclusive distribution rights to the United States. And so it's been a welcome addition to our line because we already do a lot of rigging. And so not only do we have a significantly larger inventory than we carried in the past, but we also now are able to supply rigging components to riggers around the country. And so it's been a fun ride, and we are very grateful because we get to communicate with and chat with a lot of riggers literally from Texas to California to Maine.
Now, how do you
Rhode
know
Island,
how do you know Zern rigging?
through actually some of our office team races with some of the guys that rig at Zern Rigging. And so
it's a small
we chat
world
to
in
Rick
sailing,
over
isn't
time.
it?
Yes,
It really is.
Yes.
Very, very small world. Yeah.
So
exactly.
you also distribute to the Caribbean.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
So we
pretty
sell
sweet.
parts, and not only rigging parts. Actually, we sell electrical packages for cruisers who want to do DIY installs. So we send pallets and big boxes of components out to people who are cruising down the islands, and they want to get a large package of what we do is over here we kind of assemble everything together because you need to use a freight forwarder if you're in the Caribbean most of the time, and so we will assemble all of those products into one pallet. So the Victron components, the solar panels, the hardware, the wire, the lugs, all that good stuff, that gets put into one large pallet, and then it gets shipped to a freight forwarder, typically in Miami, sometimes in Texas, and then it goes off down to wherever that cruiser is in the islands.
We have a question. What is the average lifespan of in-mast spoiler? There you go. Thanks, Rico.
Is it the entire system or the parts inside? Because you can keep them going for a long time if you're replacing the parts that might wear out. So it's just like it's kind of a loaded question of how long will a car last? Well, if you're doing regular oil changes and whatnot, go ahead, Stephen.
No, exactly what you just said. It's a maintenance thing. All these systems have ball bearings in them, and at times the ball bearings, all the races need to be worked on. But a lot of it comes down to preventive maintenance. If you have never sprayed out with fresh water your in-mast furling system and its components, it's probably not going to last as long as the guy that does that, every 6 months to a year. So a good freshwater rinse once in a while does wonders. Get the salt out of there, get the corrosion out.
So I need to spray it all up and down.
Well, down, especially in the bottom end where the moving components are, and then also the very upper end. If you drop your sail once in a while and flush out that halyard swivel, the component that pulls the sail up, fresh water is your friend on a sailboat. And then depending on which brand of system you have, some require grease as a lubricant, some require just a clean ball bearing conditioner. Exactly. So it depends a little on the brand, but preventive maintenance absolutely is your friend. We see plenty of systems out there that are 20 to 25 years old and are still fully operational because they've been well maintained. And then we also see systems that are 10 or 15 years old and have been abused and not maintained at all, and they need some work. So like Brian, that analogy of maintaining a car is a really good one on this, I think.
Well, so are you still is it Salt Creek? Is that what you're still there? And you have slips now.
Oh yeah, that's a new development since you were last around. We have slips for 9 monohulls, or really 10 monohulls, or we have it modified so that 4 catamarans can fit in there, or we put 2 monohulls into a catamaran slip. So it's
I don't even remember that much space there. Wow.
We had to modify the seawall and get it dredged.
Yeah, it's been great.
Okay. And you have space for people to do DIY?
Yes. So and we limit that to a certain degree just because we need to keep our teams busy. But we have spots on the hard that can be DIY, and we have some spots in the water that we utilize for DIY. And so it depends again on your use case. And so we have plenty of people that come in and do a lot of work in their own boats.
I would like to add that the DIY, when he said we'd like to limit it, so there's a very big difference between a customer that comes and says, I need you to haul out my boat, put it over in the corner, and I'm going to work on it until it's finished, as opposed to, do you mind if I do this portion of the job while you're doing the other portion of the job? So if they're going to get the boat, get it in our possession, and they want to drill a hole and mount something to the bulkhead while it's sitting there, that's not the same as someone that says, hey, I have this boat and I'm going to do my own work for the next month, because that ties up a slip that's a working slip, and we can't do that.
Okay.
But we do try to be very understanding with the fact that when you own your own boat, you want to do some things on your own boat. And if you're a handy guy or woman or whatever, then go for it. It's your boat.
Right.
So
or if there's a backlog in the yard and they can't get bottom jobs done, then go for it.
So they've hired you to do something, but they want to do something in addition to, is it at the same time? Okay, while it's out of the water. Okay, and and you also do some consulting
Mhm.
for people who want to.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, for
When
sure.
do you
Andre
have time for
bears the
that?
brunt of that.
Andre's
I think.
busy. He doesn't have time for that.
Yeah. It's not a huge part of what we do, but if you're lucky enough to catch particularly Andre at a time where he has a little bit of bandwidth and he can help you design the system and install it, then yeah, that's absolutely something that we do make happen. And then Brian deals with clients who have fabrication projects, and he consults with them and builds what they need, and then they self-install it. And the same with me
Wow.
with rigging. We have people who want to re-rig their own boat, and we'll gladly talk you through. We have a lot of guys on staff who can help with that kind of thing. If you're a DIYer, we can provide you with the components, but also educate you to a certain degree
With
on
that,
how to
with that
accomplish
in
your
mind,
project.
yeah, with that in mind, I didn't even think about it when you asked it, but a lot of people that are either working with a rigger somewhere else or doing it their own self will send me a drawing of an idea, or they'll send me some photographs, and then I will, from those photographs, ask them to take some more pictures with some more measurements, and then we will make and design a part here and then ship it out for installation somewhere else. So that does happen quite a bit.
Like a steel frame or an
Well,
arch
like
or something.
we've gone as mild to wild as making an entire solar system to where someone else is a very capable installer, and we made it to where it could be broken down into smaller pieces to be shipped, and then someone else put it
Y'all
together.
can do anything.
But
Y'all could
more
just
more commonly would be brackets or masthead cranes or things to allow the sailboat to do more sailing things that it might not necessarily have been designed for in the first place. If you're working with a capable rigger and they're up the mast and they're trying to get something done, but they don't have a local fabricator that knows what they need, if you go to a local welder, you're going to get agricultural parts. You're going to get things that look like they should be bolted onto a tractor, not to a boat. So when you go to a marine fabricator, you get things that look like they should be on a boat. And so,
okay.
yeah, when you brought that
Right,
up,
metal.
yeah.
Okay, here's the most important question of the evening. When was the last time y'all went to Pelican Bay?
5 weeks ago.
No way. Yeah, nice.
5 weeks? How about you, Andre?
I'm trying to remember.
I was there last year twice.
Nice.
I love it. I'm hooked.
I can't say I went on my own boat, but I did have a friend who purchased a catamaran that was down in that region, and I helped him deliver it back up the coast. So I think it was 5 or 6 weeks ago. We went from the Port Charlotte area over to Pelican, and then spent the night there, and made our way back up.
Is the park open again?
I don't know. We basically just
It
overnight.
wasn't
They
open
were
last
only
year.
there. Yeah, I don't know yet.
I think it is. Mike Teltzer was just there, and I think it is.
Oh yeah, he was.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, and he took the mangrove tunnel. So yeah.
I think it's still open.
it must
I think
be
it's
open.
Yeah, that was ground zero for
Right.
Ian. Was it? Okay.
Yeah, Ian went straight over there. About destroyed Cabbage Key, and
Well, that's still up there. I'm kind of looking forward to going back now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll make
I
that
think
happen.
y'all should get back there as soon as you can.
That would be great.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it. We've been on for an
Tinsley,
hour.
what are your next? We haven't asked you a thing here. What is your next cruising plan? When are you getting back on the boat? What's the next?
I'm waiting for a part for my refrigerator. My refrigerator went out. I had a bunch of stuff that went out at the end of my trip, right at the end.
That never happens on a boat.
Our boats never break. Yeah.
And they said it was a 1998 fridge, so you can't get too mad at that. But I'm waiting on one more part, and then I had my whole hull completely, because I had when I got back there was that storm. Was it late December, early January? That big storm that blew.
Oh, yeah.
It came through here, and then I think it went through there, and it was like 70 knot winds.
Yeah.
So I damaged my boat when I got back from a 6-month long trip in my own slip. So
at least you were close to a repair facility.
Yeah, so I took it in and I got the whole thing. I got every imperfection removed. Cost a fortune, but it is perfect. I saw some other people's boat that I got hull envy, and so I was like, I want mine perfect, and you got to pay for it, right? For it to be.
Yep.
So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to go this year. This will be the first year I don't go anywhere. If I don't go anywhere since 2016, just because the market's a little slow for real estate.
Yep.
And you know, it takes money, you know, real estate pays for the sailing, but my hope is that I will be able to go, and I plan to go head south, and I'll go right by you guys. So
awesome. We'll
you know,
stop in
Well, hope
if you.
you stop by and say hi.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, guys. This was awesome. I'm so glad that you guys decided to come on here. Thank you so much, and
Thanks
I
for the
will
invitation.
be. Hopefully, you'll get some business from this. I know you probably don't need it, but
We always need it.
you guys are
Yeah.
so friendly. I appreciate it. So professional. Thank you, guys.
Thank
And the way I like to end these, I'm going to get queued up here, is say, Salty Abandon out.
you.